So in the third chapter of Science 1, which is Chemical Reactions and Equations, we have studied about what chemical changes are, how every chemical change has a chemical reaction in it, and how chemical reactions can be represented in the form of chemical equations. And we studied about different types of reactions, combination, decomposition, displacement, double displacement, endothermic, exothermic, fast, slow. We also studied about oxidation, reduction. Together we call them redox. And we have studied about the advantages and uses of oxidation reactions. Now, the major problems, one of the major problems of oxidation is corrosion. Corrosion is damage to the metal because of exposure to the atmosphere. And what is there in the atmosphere which causes damage? It is the oxygen and it is the water vapor. The water and the oxygen. So one very common example of corrosion that all of us have seen is when an iron object is kept outside, whether it is a thing kept outside or whether it is a vehicle, a bicycle, anything. After some time, it rusts. Jung lag jata usko. It loses its shine and it starts rusting. That is visible. Internally, structurally, it becomes weak. So this is the last part of the chapter, which we have already studied, what corrosion is, what rusting is. We will look at it once again for better clarity. Right. So if you imagine a iron object which is exposed to the air. This is the iron object which is exposed to the air, Fe. Now, the air definitely has oxygen. The air also has H2O. Remember, water is a very, very good solvent. And solvents can act as electrolytes. Electrolyte is a salt. Electrolyte is a solution that can conduct electricity. Electrolyte is part of electrical cell that we studied in class 9. It was there on page number 72 of science textbook last year. So what happens is this metal along with water and oxygen from the air, they start acting as an electrochemical cell. They start acting as an electrochemical cell. Any electrochemical cell will have two terminals, an anode and a cathode. Anode is the positive terminal, cathode is the negative terminal. Why does this happen? Because iron reacts with the air, iron reacts with the water that is there in the air. That is the starting point. So the starting point is because of the exposure of the metal to oxygen and water vapor that is there in the atmosphere, the whole thing starts acting like a electrochemical cell. Chemical cell. Are you with me till now? So at the anode, again, anode is the positive region. At the anode, iron is losing electrons. Iron is losing electrons to form cations, positive ions, Fe plus 2. Right? Now you tell me, based on your understanding of oxidation and reduction, what type of reaction is this? Is it oxidation or reduction? Or reduction? iron is losing electrons. Losing electrons is oxidation or reduction. Correct, Chan? Waiting for more answers. Is losing electrons oxidation or reduction? Sandhya and Aman, wrong. You did not study. Chan, correct. It is oxidation. See, what else? Very good, Chanda. It is oxidation. Very good, Tar. No, Alfia. This is not reduction. Why it is oxidation? Because we are losing electrons, and also see the charge is increasing. The positive charge is increasing. So we say iron is oxidized to form Fe+2 ions. Fe+2 ions are also called as ferrous ions. We studied this in the afternoon yesterday. This is what is happening at the anode. We can make a guess that if at the anode oxidation is happening, definitely at the cathode, the opposite must be happening. So yes, at the cathode, some reduction is happening. And what is that reduction? Oxygen loses these electrons. No, not the oxygen. Hydrogen loses these electrons and combines with oxygen to form water. So oxygen is being reduced. That is what is happening. Add addition of hydrogen or addition of electrons. This is reduction. At the same time, we also see that hydrogen is oxidized. But this is what we are concerned with. So not only is there water vapor in the air, because of the setting up of electrochemical cell, more water is being produced. Understand this. We already have some water vapor in the air, and more water is being produced on the surface of the metal, which is iron. Once again, if water is being produced on the surface of the iron, then the iron ions that are produced in the anode region, they will come into contact with the water. And that is what happens. That is what happens. The Fe+2 ions, when they move, when they migrate from the anode region, they react with water. And water has oxygen. So they get even more oxidized. We studied this yesterday, that when Fe+2, when the ferrous turns into Fe+3, that is ferric, OUSIC. This is another oxidation. The positive charge is increasing. Once again, the whole process starts because the metal is exposed to the air, which has oxygen and water vapor, which creates a kind of electrochemical cell. Because of this setup, at the anode, Fe+2 ions are formed. Because of this setup, at the cathode, water is formed. Now, the iron ions are getting in contact with the water. When they come into contact with water, they get further oxidized to Fe+3 ferric ions. The ferric ions that are formed in the water, they further react. They react with water. And when they react with water, they form a compound, which is iron oxide, Fe2O3. This one, iron oxide. And if you are strict about the name, this is ferric oxide, not ferrous oxide. Ferric, because This 3 tells us that the valency of iron here is 3. The same 3. Now this iron oxide is the rust. This is what is reddish and brownish in color. It has some molecules of water also. This is not part of the compound. There is a physical association. So these are water of crystallization. One molecule of water of crystallization in one molecule of iron oxide. So क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे? Net effect, what is happening is we started with the metal iron, but because of a lot of things that are happening, it is getting converted into Fe2O3, which is rust. We can say that iron is wasting the strong metal that we started with. It is no longer that metal. It is slowly converting into another thing altogether. It is converting into a compound. And that compound has completely different properties from the element. It is not strong. It is in the powder form. And the metal breaks. This is rusting. I was trying to find a better diagram for you to understand and explain what is happening. So this is another diagram which gives us a little bit more detail. But the details are same. At anode, Fe+2 is produced. At cathode, H2O is produced. Fe+2 reacts with H2O to first form Fe+3 and then form Fe2O3. This is an electrochemical reaction which wastes the metal. The area that acts as anode, वहाँ पे iron खत्म हो रहा है, so we have these gaps. खत्म हो गया, metal खत्म हो गया. And we have deposits of iron oxide, which is reddish and reddish brown in color. With this, you should be able to answer this question in the textbook exercise. It says, observe the following picture, not A, and write down the chemical reaction with explanation. So what we have to write here is this reaction, and we will, even before that, we will have to say when iron is exposed to the air, something happens. Then we have to give this anode reaction. We have to give this cathode reaction. We have to say that Fe+2 converts into Fe+3 and how this is the most important reaction, the final reaction. Fe+3 reacts with H2O to form Fe2O3, which is rust. This is a long answer question. This question is also possible. It's a candidate question for the board exam. But what happens in the board exam is we will not get one long question like this. It will be broken down into 1, 2, 3, or 4 smaller questions. The questions would look like this. What is happening in the picture? This can be one question. So you will say the picture shows us rusting of iron. Another part of the question will say, give the reaction that is happening at anode. Give the reaction that is happening at cathode. Another question will say, what is the reaction by which rust is produced? So the question will be broken down. The amount of information that we will have to write will be the same, but the structure of writing will change. You will not write a paragraph. You will just answer in points. What is happening? The picture shows rusting of the iron. Anode reaction, just give the anode reaction. Cathode reaction, just give the cathode reaction. And we can answer. And this is the end of chapter number